Good evening. Let's give a shout out for Vermont, what they call that brave little state. My name is Andy Fisk. I'm honored to be part of the team that works with David Deen, and I'm here tonight on behalf of our colleagues in Vermont who nominated David, those folks at Lake Champlain International, Conservation Law Foundation, Vermont Natural Resources Council, and we heartily supported the nomination of David Deen and feel that he is well deserving of this award. My mother raised me to respect my elders. My mother also told me that respect is earned. And when I began working at the Connecticut River Watershed Council in 2011, on day one, David Deen had earned my respect. He had 14 years worth of work at our organization, and well over 20 serving in the Vermont House and Senate as a legislator, to which he still serves. I knew from talking to a very few number of people that his legacy was one to be admired, and that I would be in a wonderful professional experience working with David. Now, I will say that the Vermont legislature is still in session, and we are privileged to have David here. He is currently the chair of the, I'm not going to get this right because your remit has doubled in the recent reorganization, but he is chair of the Fish and Wildlife, Natural Resources, Environment, Energy, and God knows what else. And so David has a very full legislative docket, and he broke away to be here with us. And I will say that he has been getting phone calls all week from the Speaker of the House saying, "David, where are you?" And he says, "I'm in a meeting, I'll be there in a little bit." She calls again, he says, "I'm in the bathroom, I'll be back in a little bit." So he's been fending off his speaker in order to be here to grace us with his presence. When I first started working with David, which I do with many people, one of the first things I asked them is, "What do you need from me?" And I work in our Massachusetts office, and at the time David had both Vermont and New Hampshire, the entire northern part of our watershed, as his domain, and he'd been doing it for a very long time. And David looked at me and he said, "What I need from you is to leave me alone." And so David had a tremendous record of working out of his home and conquering both Vermont and New Hampshire. And while I did not leave him alone, because I recognized in David there was someone that could teach me a tremendous amount about being an advocate. And David is someone who has taught me about passion and persistence. And I didn't leave him alone because I knew that I would learn a tremendous amount from his legacy, and I would learn a tremendous amount of how to continue to be a better and better advocate. And his legacy is really astonishing. His legacy with us is in the hydropower world, and yes, grown. David has, he eats hydropower licensing for lunch, along with NIPD's licenses for lunch. There is not a permit regulation or anything that David will not relish diving right into. And one of his achievements was to be key in the negotiation of a $15 million settlement for a hydropower relicensing. There are many others, but one of his signal one that really impressed me was a very long fight to stop the thermal discharge from a nuclear power plant, Vermont Yankee. And David took this on single-handedly, and there was a point in time where there was no money left, and there was proceedings in front of the Utility Commission in Vermont, and David said, "I need a lawyer." And the organization said, "We don't have any money." And he said, "Well, by Jesus, I'll do it myself." And he did. He represented the river pro se. He didn't win in that case, but 5 years later, David's record that he assembled overturned a 30-year administrative record justifying thermal pollution to the Connecticut River. And that record was so compelling and successful that the Department of Public Utilities and the Department of Environmental Conservation took our expert reports and folded them into their pleadings and permits. And that was a tremendous testament to David's work. His legislative legacy is far too long to list here, but there's two items that I think are of note. He worked for many years to get riparian buffers established in the state of Vermont, a fight that was too long and too difficult, but nonetheless he persevered and got it done. And then his most recent achievement is to be the singular force behind the Vermont Clean Water Act. David is relied on by his legislative leadership as the whip. And boy, can he whip the votes. And he single-handedly brought the votes to bear that enacted the Vermont Clean Water Act that stipulated a wide variety of requirements for those polluters to our waters, as well as establishing a permanent fund of money that will address millions of dollars every single year to clean up our waters. I am honored to work with David, and I am only sorry that he has very recently retired from our organization, but I am pleased to note that the brave little state of Vermont will continue to have his service in the legislature for many years to come. Thank you, David.
We need a paddle and a picture.
All right. That's the most important part. That's right. Show him the tie.
Yeah, we'll. Some people wear their hearts on their sleeve. It's easier on a tie. Like so many others, thank you to everyone and anyone who is part of my receiving this River Hero Award. I'm not sure any individual is a hero on their own doing this work. It takes teamwork. And there's no I in the word team, as some of the management types are wont to tell you. I was reminded of this at a celebration for my retirement, where regulators, funders, watershed advocates, Connecticut River Watershed Council members, professors, legislators, and citizens all showed up. And when I stood up to speak to them, every single person there had been a partner in some activity that I was involved with to protect the rivers of Vermont. And appropriately, I thank them for making me look good. So thank you to River Network, my peers in Vermont, and the Connecticut River Watershed Council, now renamed the Connecticut River Conservancy, and the membership of that organization, and anyone I don't know about for this award. And now, since I have the microphone and your willing ears, I just want to say, give politics a chance. Many of the presenters I listened to this week referred to their state legislatures, mostly in disparaging terms, with a roll of their eyes heavenward. And then they would get this resigned, what are you going to do? Look on their face. Okay, that said, what are you, and I mean you, and I mean especially the young ones in this crowd. I am so pleased that there are young people that are part of this movement. Thank you. So anyhow, your state legislature is not your friend. What are you going to do to change how your legislator views clean water, human rights, and other issues of import? Hey, here's an idea. What if you were the legislator from your district? Would that change the view of clean water? I think so. It's hard work to get elected. But what the hey, you're all working hard now, and I want to tell you that your water advocacy skills are transferable to getting elected. What might you get for your hard work if you do manage to get elected? Two personal examples that are my favorites in my career. I led designating Vermont groundwater as a public trust resource. Vermont now must protect the quantity and quality of our groundwater. And as Andy mentioned, in 2015, we finally, with the Vermont Clean Water Act, put some real teeth into the required agricultural practices to protect surface water quality from agricultural runoff. As an advocate and as a legislator, I work, if you will, both sides of the street. And having worked both ways, I want to tell you, you do much better on the inside than on the outside. So just think about it, okay? Again, thank you to everyone who thought I should get this award. And thank you to my Allison, who's put up with the craziness of me being a water advocate. And I am proud to have received this award. Thank you.